Therese here. Welcome to Change Chats from my virtual change manager. Just wanted to catch up with you to talk about the change ecosystem because I was quite excited by this. I blogged about it, I've talked about it, and I want to keep talking about it because I think it's really relevant about how change works in an organization. And what we've done is actually put together just a bit of a three-dimensional, so excuse the way in which I've scribbled it on here, but essentially if you go to the website, there's a better graphic, you know, the beauty of technology. But essentially these are all different functions that sit within the change ecosystem. And oftentimes what can happen is when you form up a change function in the organization, all of a sudden everyone expects that change function to fix everything in an organization. And it's just impossible, especially in large organizations. But these are the functions that all contribute to change either being successful or not as successful as it could be. So let's talk about, obviously, culture is at the heart of it. And when you've got a culture where people may want to work in a silo fashion, when their preference is to do that, when people are in survival mode, which I know after the pandemic, there's a lot of organizations where people are just like burnt out. But the culture and the health of the culture in the organization is either going to support change as a function and a way of working or not. So there may be some cultural things that you need to address as part of supporting change maturity in your organization. Then looking at strategy. And so the strategy area, if you don't have alignment between the strategy area and your business function, then that kind of confusion doesn't help when it comes to introducing change because there's not really that overarching direction or purpose that people feel. So certainly the strategy and the strategic functions in your organization can impact change both positively or negatively depending upon how well they're functioning. Then engagement, the engagement of your employees does correlate to how well change is embraced by an organization and by the individuals in an organization. So if you have low engagement scores going on, so staff are typically unhappy, then you really want to start to address that. And this lends it to leadership. Leadership's really critical, and there's always a direct correlation between leadership and how strong leadership is as a cohort in and of themselves in your organization, and how well change can be adopted across an organization. If you have leadership who are fragmented, who are siloed, and who fundamentally just don't get along and aren't on the same page and have different ambitions and different drives happening, then that is going to show up in how well you can flex when it comes to change. The marketing function, so of course, if you actually have external clients or customers who are impacted by change, if you don't have the marketing function to be able to communicate effectively and support clients and customers in the change, once again, fundamentally flawed. The learning function because of capability building. So sometimes when you go through your detailed impact assessment, which we've talked about before, you might find that actually there's some capability building that's necessary from a change perspective. If you don't have a strong learning function or learning and development function to actually support that, it's okay, you can bring in the extra support, but you do need the learning and capability and development function to step up and to support the change. Else, once again, there could be a misperception that the change, managing change is poor, but you actually do need to make sure that capability development is part of it. Communications, this is just great because I just want to talk about this because it happens so often in organizations. If your communication channels aren't clear, if they're not getting cut through, when people come in to manage change or to support the delivery of change, or even as leaders, if you're wanting to deliver change to another team, if there aren't strong communication channels that exist, you're really, really going to struggle. Communications is so critical in organizations, and internal communications is more important than ever that it actually evolves in its form. It used to be more like newsletters to get cut through, but that was before the information age just deluged us with emails and TikTok and Instagram and everything else. So we're used to seeing a lot of information, but also we're not paying as much attention to that information as we used to. So you need to have really strong communication channels internally that can get the cut through and who can prioritize what the change looks like from a communications perspective, just so that people can get on board. And I do like the marketing aspect of communications. I have training in it. That's probably why I like it, because that was my initial study before the world of change actually came to be. So I know how critical it is to get cut through. And sometimes the communication element can work stronger if it takes a marketing lens and you campaign in relation to important changes. Customer experience, well, this is an area almost symbiotic really with change, which is early in its maturity in a lot of organizations. So shout out to you if you're in the CX team, because you'll be doing the hard yards similar to change sometimes. CX is really about putting the customer at the center of the decisions that you're making sure that you're understanding the customer need at all times and letting that help inform decision making as well. It actually is so powerful. So it's really, really important that the CX function is supported by change and can actually help to have it come to life more and more. And then we have programs and governance down the bottom. And there's no reason why it's down the bottom. It's just part of the overall picture. But the governance frameworks you have in an organization can really impact change positively or negatively. And there needs to be prioritization across an organization, whether it be small, medium or large, or an organization that you're working in. So you really do want to have robust governance frameworks in place so that decision making is really clear, that it can be facilitated, and so that you can empower people to become more change agile. And then the program setup, if you don't have the visibility across the landscape as to all of the programs and projects taking place, well, change find it really hard to navigate what else is happening to this team at the same time as this piece of work that's happening. So your program management and how that works is really in partnership with change. So this whole ecosystem, and I call it an ecosystem because if there's one aspect that's a little bit weaker than the other, it can really impact change across your organization. So I hope this has helped understand all the different functions, and it doesn't matter about structure or where it sits. It's actually about the functions itself and how much attention you're paying to that. And so have a think about your organization and where they sit when it comes to your staff engagement. How much is customer experience or the customer really at the center of your decision making? How about your organizational culture? Is that strong, weak? Are people really lining up with their values, or are they there's a default culture that's happening? Is there a strong strategy across your organization? Is your marketing function really helping in relation to communicating to customers and clients? How strong is your leadership? Is there a really strong leadership cohort happening? Is your learning function really valued in your organization, or are you compensating for that? Is there a governance structure in place which is really working well? And do you have the oversight of the programs taking place? And most importantly, are your communications effective? Have a great day. Come visit us at myvirtualchangemanager.com and we will chat again soon.